Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 unlocked the divine Omnitrix and built the Harem of Gwen, Julie, Kai and Esther? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. Divine Awakening. The null void tasted like static and regret. Ben Tennyson materialized 300 feet above a floating obsidian platform, already twisting his body mid-fall, already analyzing the 17 hostiles rising from the crystalline structures below. Jetray's neurocluster fired calculations faster than conscious though. UGHT. Wind resistance negligible in this dimension's thin atmosphere. Gravitational constant 0.73 Earth standard. Hostiles armed with chronosapian energy disruptors. He didn't wait to land. Neuroshock blasts lanced from his eyes and tail, precise strikes that shattered weapons without killing wielders. Ben had learned that lesson the hard way, years ago when he still thought power meant never pulling punches. The Null Void's exile population deserved imprisonment, not execution. 3 hostiles down before his feet touched obsidian. The platform hummed beneath Jetray's aerodynamic form, resonating at a frequency that set his teeth on edge. Wrong. That harmonic shouldn't exist here. Dimensional bleed, he muttered, voice distorted through Jetray's physiology. The Omnitrix symbol pulsed green on his chest, steady, reliable, unchanged for months. That wouldn't last much longer. The remaining 14 scattered. Smart. Ben had been hunting null void smugglers for 6 years, his reputation preceded him. A Vulpimancer tried flanking right while a Piscis dove into the Mercury Sea below the platform. Predictable. He'd fought this exact tactical pattern against these exact species 40, 50 times. Ben slapped the Omnitrix. Green flash, familiar transformation tingle running through every cell as Jetray's form collapsed and restructured. Echo's sonic body materialized mid-platform. And he was already moving, already 3 steps ahead of his opponents. Sorry about this. The apology was genuine. He duplicated 12 copies in perfect synchronization, each taking a position around the platform's perimeter. The Vulpimancer lunged at the nearest clone just as all 12 echoes released a carefully calibrated sonic pulse. Frequency modulated to disru. PT Vulpimancer equilibrium without damaging its enhanced hearing permanently. The creature dropped, unconscious. The Piscis burst from the Mercury Sea directly into a sonic net that tangled its fins and dumped it, cursing in gurgled Piscis, onto the platform. 11 hostiles remaining. They rushed him simultaneously, finally showing some coordination. Ben grinned, combining his duplicate S back into a single form while shifting again. The Omnitrix cycled through his playlist faster than opponents could track. Cannonbolt. Momentum and angles, physics as weapon. He ricocheted between crystalline spires, each impact precisely calculated to maintain velocity while herding hostiles into a tighter formation. Swampfire. Methane cloud. Non-lethal concentration, ignited in a flash that consumed oxygen without burning flesh. They dropped like puppets with cut strings. Big chill. Ice cocoons for the 3 who'd held their breath through the flash, gentle and efficient. 17 hostiles. Neutralized in 90 seconds without permanent injury. Ben shifted back to human form, already pulling the plumber containment beacon from his jacket. His hands moved through the activation sequence, while his mind cataloged everything wrong with this scenario. The dimensional bleed was getting worse. He could see it now with human eyes, reality rippling like heat shimmer across the platform's surface. Colors bleeding into spectrums that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. The obsidian wasn't just humming anymore. It was singing, a frequency that bypassed ears entirely and resonated directly in his bones. Max is going to kill me for going off book again, Ben said to the unconscious smugglers. The containment beacon activated, pulsing its retrieval signal to Plumber HQ. He had YBE 10 minutes before the extraction team arrived, less if Magister Patellidae was on duty. The Tetraman had been looking for an excuse to lecture him about appropriate risk assessment protocols for weeks. Which meant 9 minutes to investigate what was causing the dimensional instability before someone ordered him to evacuate. Ben approached the platform's center where the reality distortion was strongest. Each step required concentration. Spatial geometry kept shifting, making distance relative and steps uncertain. 3 feet forward might translate to 5 feet traveled, or 2, or sud. Only he'd be walking on what his brain insisted was the underside of the platform, even though down remained consistently beneath his boots. Definitely celestial sapien energy, he murmured, pulling out his scanner. The device screamed immediate protest, its display fragmenting into nonsense characters. Right, celestial sapien energy treated physics like suggestions. Regular technology was useless. Ben closed his eyes, centering himself through breathing techniques Kundo had taught him during his training on Koros. Panic was defeat. Fear was distraction. He needed to think, to understand, too. The platform beneath him shattered. Not physically, dimensionally. Reality cracked like glass, and Ben fell through into somewhere else. Somewhere shone too bright. Somewhere tasted like copper and starlight. Somewhere had too many dimensions for human perception. Angles that hurt to see, colors that sang and sounds that had texture. Ben's body screamed protest at existing in space never meant for three-dimensional biology. He should transform, should slap the Omnitrix and become something that could survive this place. His hand moved toward the watch, slow as continental drift, fast as thought. Time had no consistent meaning here. Then he saw it. The artifact hung suspended in not space, wrought from crystallized probability and solidified mathematics. Celestial sapien design, unmistakable in its reality-defying construction. Roughly spherical, approximately the size of a basketball, covered in flowing equations that rewrote themselves faster than comprehension. It pulsed with inner lie, chi that existed in spectrums beyond visible, casting shadows in directions that didn't exist. Beautiful, terrible, powerful beyond measure. It was also cracked, leaking cosmic energy in catastrophic cascades that were tearing holes between dimensions. Of course it's broken, Ben said, or tried to say. His voice emerged as colors and geometric proofs. Nothing's ever easy. The artifact pulsed, and suddenly Ben understood. Not through language but through direct information transfer that bypassed cognition entirely. The Celestial Sapiens had created this as a repository, a backup storage for Cosm. IC awareness they couldn't maintain while navigating their species' constant internal debates. A cache of pure consciousness, sealed away eons ago and forgotten when the Celestial Sapien who'd hid an eye. Chi resolved their personality conflict by ceasing to exist. Now the seal was failing. The consciousness inside was leaking out, looking for a compatible host before it dissipated entirely into entropy. Looking directly at him. Oh no, Ben managed, geometry voice inflecting toward alarm. No, no, no. I'm not. I can't. The artifact cracked further. Golden light exploded outward, and Ben had exactly 1 second to make a choice. Let the cosmic consciousness dissipate. Safe option. Smart option. Avoid power he didn't understand and definitely couldn't control. Or try to contain it. Risk himself to prevent dimensional collapse. Grandpa Max's voice echoed in memory. Being a hero isn't about having powers, Ben. It's about making the hard choice when no one else can. I really hate it when you're right, Grandpa. Ben reached for the artifact with both hands and his will. The consciousness slammed into him like a supernova. Pain first. Every nerve igniting simultaneously, every cell rewriting its fundamental structure. DNA incorporating impossible helixes that existed in higher dimensions. Ben screamed in colors and equations, his voice fragmenting across 7 probability streams. The Omnitrix on his wrist blazed nova bright, responding to the cosmic influx. It shouldn't be able to interface with Celestial Sapien consciousness. The fail-safes Azimuth had installed should have prevented exactly this scenario, but the consciousness wasn't attacking the device. It was merging with it, finding harmony between Azimuth's greatest creation and the Celestial Sapien's abandoned repository. Ben felt his awareness explode outward. Suddenly he perceived not just this moment but all moments, probability branches spreading like infinite tree roots through past and future. He saw the Big Bang's Saint light and the heat death of the universe simultaneously. He perceived every atom in his body and every star in the observable cosmos with equal clarity. Too much. His human mind couldn't process, couldn't contain. The Omnitrix pulsed, and suddenly Azimuth was there. Not physically present, but the Galvan First Thinker's consciousness had left impressions in his greatest creation, personality EC. Hose designed to activate in exactly this scenario. Breathe, Tennyson. Azimuth's voice, stern and somehow reassuring. Your neurology is adapting. Let it. Stop fighting the transformation. Can't. Too much. You've contained the power of a celestial sapien before. You are capable of this. Alien X was different. That was transformation. This is, Ben couldn't find words. Couldn't find anything overwhelming sensation and infinite perception. This is evolution, Azimuth's echo stated. The Omnitrix was always meant to be more than a weapon or tool. I designed it as a bridge between species, between ways of being. You're crossing that bridge, Ben. Walk forward. The echo faded. Ben was alone again with cosmic consciousness and his own fragmenting sanity. Walk forward. Right. Simple. Ben stopped fighting. Stopped trying to contain or control or understand everything simultaneously. He just breathed, in and out, grounding himself in biology's simple rhythm. His heart was beating. That was real. His lungs were processing oxygen. That was real. He was Ben Tennyson, 21 years old, who'd been fighting the universe's battles since he was 10. That was real. The cosmic consciousness settled into him like a key finding its lock. Still overwhelming, still impossibly vast, but no longer crushing. The Omnitrix had transformed. He could feel it even without looking. The device had evolved, incorporating celestial sapien architecture into its existing matrix. When Ben finally opened his eyes, he was back in the null void. The obsidian platform had stabilized, dimensional bleeding stopped. The artifact was gone, fully integrated. He looked down at his wrist. The Omnitrix had changed. The housing was still recognizable, still the white and green design he'd worn for years. But olden circuitry now traced patterns across the device's surface, pulsing gently with inner light. The patterns weren't static. They flowed like living things, occasionally extending beyond the watch FA. CE to trace delicate spirals up his forearm before receding. Ben flexed his hand experimentally. The circuitry flared brighter, responding to intent. Information flooded his awareness, not overwhelming anymore. Manageable, showing him the Omnitrix's expanded capabilities. The available transformations had evolved. Not just aliens anymore. Divine variants, celestial homungosaur, transcendent jetray, infinite echo, each one incorporating cosmic awareness into the transformation, making them exponentially more powerful than their base forms. But that wasn't the change that made Ben's breath catch. He could see threads now. Golden filaments of connection stretching from his chest toward people. Toward souls that resonated with his across probability and choice. The cosmic conscio, USNESS had granted him perception of compatibility, of bonds that could exist given time and effort and mutual choice. 4 threads, primary and bright, stretching across distance toward 4 specific people. Ben knew without knowing how he knew, the same way he knew his own name. These were potential connections, relationships that could develop into something profound if, and only if, all parties chose to walk that path. The cosmic consciousness showed him probability, not destiny. 1 thread stretched northeast, terminating in Friedkin University's physics building where someone was probably buried in magical research right now. Gwen, Ben whispered. The thread pulsed like it recognized her name. He'd been suppressing his feelings for his step-cousin for years. Societal pressure, family complexity. His own certainty that Gwen deserved better than someone who'd nearly died approximately 200 times and counting. The thread didn't care about those rationalizations. It showed compatibility, deep and true, built on years of partnership and understanding. The second thread stretched into deep space, terminating somewhere in the Zeta sector on a racing circuit Ben recognized. Julie. That thread carried different harmonics, adventure and independence, 2 people who'd grown separately and might choose to grow together again. The third terminated at Plummer Academy, wraparound. Someone currently teaching xenoanthropology to cadets who were definitely not paying enough attention. Complexity there. Their history was complicated, built on shallow foundations that had somehow, over years of occasional partnership, developed into genuine respect. The 4th thread stretched toward an interstellar diplomatic vessel approaching Earth's solar system. Ester. That thread sang with different frequencies entirely, almost alien in its harmonics but no less real. Ben sat down hard on the obsidian platform, head spinning with implications. 4 women. 4 potential relationships. The cosmic consciousness wasn't forcing anything, he could feel that certainty bone deep. These were just compatible paths, probability branches where genuine love could develop. But 4, simultaneously. I can barely handle one relationship, Ben said to the empty null void. How am I supposed to? The plumber extraction beacon nearby activated, signaling the incoming transport. Right, he was still sitting at an active smuggler interdiction site. Probably should move before Magister Patellidae arrived and started asking uncomfortable questions about the glowing watch and the golden circuits currently tattooing his forearm. Ben stood, tapping the Omnitrix experimentally. The holographic display activated, showing his transformation options. Alongside each familiar silhouette now hung a secondary icon, the divine variant. He selected Jetre, the normal version, not ready to test cosmic enhanced transformations without proper safety protocols and probably several science teams on standby. Green light engulfed him. The transformation felt different now, smoother, more intuitive, like the Omnitrix understood him better than before. Jetre's form materialized in a cascade of emerald energy, and Ben launched himself off the platform just as the plumber transport shimmered into reality. He'd file his report later. Right now he needed to get back to Earth and figure out what exactly he'd just done to himself. And maybe, possibly, eventually work up the courage to have some very complicated conversations. The flight from Null Void to Earth took 17 minutes through the dimensional portal network. Ben spent 16 of those minutes trying not to think about the threads still visible in his expanded perception, and 1 minute failing completely. He emerged from the RTAL gate outside Bellwood at 11:47 p.m. local time, transforming back to human form before anyone could spot him. The city sprawled below, familiar and comforting after the Null Void's alien geometries. Light pollution washed out most stars, but Ben could still see them, could see everything now with uncomfortable clarity, including the new message notification flashing on his phone. Gwen, you feel that? Ben's heart rate spiked. The message had arrived 4 minutes ago, right around when he'd merged with the celestial sapient consciousness. Gwen's magical sensitivity must have detected the cosmic surge. Before he could respond, his phone rang. Gwen's contact photo, her laughing at some joke he'd made during a battle against Zombozo's reformation attempt, red hair wild and eyes bright with joy, filled the screen. He answered, "Hey, Gwen, don't. Hey Gwen, me." Her voice carried tension wrapped in forced calm. Something just rewrote the taumaturgical resonance patterns across 7-dimensional axes. Every magical practitioner on the planet felt it. Hex called me. Charmcaster called me. Verdona manifested in my apartment to ask if I was causing the apocalypse. So I'll ask again. What did you do? Ben couldn't help smiling despite the situation. Gwen's particular brand of annoyed, worried, curious was achingly familiar. Why do you assume I did something? Because cosmic-level disturbances follow you like moths to flame. And I can feel your energy signature all over this event. Where are you? Just got back from the Null Void. Had a situation. Are you hurt? Instant shift to concern, the edge in her voice softening. No, I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Kind of. Ben looked down at his wrist where golden circuits still traced patterns across the Omnitrix. It's complicated. Can I come over? This isn't really a phone conversation. Silence for 3 seconds. My apartment. 20 minutes. And Ben, if you've done something catastrophically stupid, you'll hit me with a mana blast, I know. See you soon, Gwen. He hung up before she could respond, already pulling his jacket tighter against the night chill. The golden thread connecting him to Gwen pulsed steadily, pointing northeast like a compass toward something he'd been denying for years. Time to stop running from complicated truths. Gwen's apartment occupied the 4th floor of a converted factory building near Friedkin University. She'd warded it so thoroughly that Ben could feel the defensive magic from street level, a tingling sensation across his skin like static electricity. The wards recognized him, parting like curtains to allow entry. He took the stairs 2 at a time, nervous energy demanding movement. What was he supposed to say? Hey Gwen, I accidentally merged with cosmic consciousness. And now I can see that we're fundamentally compatible across multiple probability branches. Want to get coffee? Smooth, Tennyson. Really smooth. Gwen opened her apartment door before he could knock. She'd changed from whatever she'd been wearing earlier into comfortable clothes, worn jeans and an oversized sweatshirt from the Friedkin physics department. Her red hair was pulled into a messy bun, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wasn't wearing makeup, probably hadn't been expecting company. She was beautiful. Ben had always known that on some level, but the cosmic awareness made him see it differently. Not just physical beauty, though she definitely had that, but the way her soul's energy manifested visually, creating subtle harmonics in how light played across her features. "You're staring," Gwen said, but her tone was more curious than annoyed. "And you're glowing." Ben looked down. The golden circuits on the Omnitrix had extended again, tracing delicate patterns up his arm. "Yeah, that's new. Can I come in?" Gwen stepped aside, gesturing him into the apartment. The space was quintessentially her. Organized chaos, books stacked on every surface, whiteboards covered in magical equations competing with physics formulae, half-finished teacups marking her progress through different research sessions. Crystals hung in the windows, catching streetlight and casting modic reflections across walls covered in diagrams and photos. Several of those photos featured Ben. He noticed that with a little jolt. Him and Gwen during various adventures, mixed among pictures of her parents, their friends, other family members. "Sit," Gwen commanded, pointing at her couch. "Talk." "What happened?" Ben sat. Gwen remained standing, arms crossed, her professor interrogating a student posture. He'd been on the receiving end of that stance enough times to know she wouldn't relent until she had answers. So he told her. The smuggler interdiction, the dimensional bleed, the celestial Sapian artifact, the merger and transformation. He showed her the evolved Omnitrix, let her examine the golden circuits while carefully not mentioning the threads or compatibility perception. Some truths required better timing. Gwen listened intently, occasionally interrupting with clarifying questions. Her fingers traced the patterns on his arm, and where she touched, the circuits flared brighter. She noticed, eyes widening. "They're responding to me," she said softly. "To my mana signature. The cosmic consciousness integrated with the Omnitrix," Ben explained. "It's made everything more connected, more aware of relationships and resonances between things." What kind of relationships? There it was. The opening. Ben could deflect, could change the subject, could run away from T.'s conversation like he'd been running from his feelings for years. But cosmic consciousness came with clarity, and clarity demanded honesty. "Gwen." He stood, turning to face her fully. They were close now, barely 2 feet apart. "I need to tell you something I should have said years ago." The apartment windows exploded inward. Ben's combat instincts took over. He grabbed Gwen, pulling her down. As crystalline projectiles shredded the air where she'd been standing. The couch erupted in impacts, stuffing and springs scattered. Gwen's wards flared, deflecting most of the assault but buckling under sustained barrage. "Null void crystal," Gwen shouted over the chaos. "Someone's firing from dimensional overlap." Ben was already moving, already thinking 3 steps ahead. He slapped the Omnitrix. The evolved device responded instantly, and Ben selected without hesitation. The transformation took him differently than ever before. He felt himself expand across dimensions, felt cosmic awareness flood through changing biology. He'd chosen Homungosaur, but what emerged was something more. Celestial Homungosaur, 15 feet of scaled muscle and cosmic power, skin marked with the same gold. End circuits now brightened to stellar intensity. He could see in spectrums beyond normal light, could perceive the dimensional overlap where attackers hid between realities. "Stay down." His voice resonated with harmonics that made reality shiver. Ben charged the window, or rather, charged the dimensional barrier. Celestial Homungosaur's enhanced perception showed him exactly where to strike. His fist connected with space that looked empty but felt solid, and the dimensional overlap shattered like glass. 3 attackers tumbled into normal space, their stealth broken. They wore armor crafted from compressed probability, shimmering with impossible colors. Void conclave soldiers, Ben knew without knowing how, cosmic awareness providing context. The lead soldier recovered first, energy blade manifesting in their hand. "Tennyson." The divine Omnitrix belongs to. Ben didn't let them finish. He was done with villains monologuing. His tail whipped around, catching the soldier mid-chest and Lao. NC hinged them across the apartment into the far wall. Gwen's wards absorbed the impact, preventing actual structural damage. The second soldier fired some kind of entropy weapon. The beam should have aged whatever it touched into dust. Should have, but celestial homungosaur existed partially outside linear time. The beam scattered across his scales like light through a prism, harmless. Gwen, Ben called. Temporal lock pattern 7. They'd developed combination techniques years ago, practiced until teamwork became instinct. Gwen responded instantly, hands weaving sigils that froze localized time. Ben moved through the frozen moment. Temporal locks didn't affect him in this form, and disarmed the second soldier with precision that would have been impossible without cosmic awareness showing him exactly where to strike. The third soldier was already running, diving back through the dimensional overlap. Not happening. Ben's enhanced perception could see the dimensional paths now. He reached into the overlap, his arm stretching across realities in ways homungosaur's biology should never allow, and grabbed the fleeing soldier by their ankle. He pulled them back through, gentle but inexorable. We can do this the easy way. Ben rumbled, or the really easy way where you're unconscious and my cousin interrogates you later. Your call. All three soldiers chose surrender. Smart. Ben transformed back to human form. Golden circuits fading to faint tracery across his skin. Gwen was already calling plumber containment while simultaneously weaving binding spells around their captive attackers. Void Conclave, she said. Voice tight. They're extra-dimensional raiders from Universe -483. They've been probing our reality's defenses for months, but never this directly. Never attacking Earth. They called it the Divine Omnitrix. Ben noted. Knew exactly what they were after. Which means they've been watching you specifically. Gwen finished her binding spell with a gesture sharp enough to cut. This wasn't opportunistic. They waited until you merged with the celestial sapien consciousness, then struck immediately after. They wanted to catch you off guard. The lead soldier laughed, the sound bitter. You understand nothing. The divine Omnitrix is our only hope for. For what? Gwen demanded. What do you want with it? The soldier's expression shifted behind their helmet's transparent faceplate. Not malicious. Desperate. Our universe is dying. Yours has the power to save it. We will do whatever necessary. Silence fell across the destroyed apartment. Ben exchanged glances with Gwen, seeing his own conflict mirrored in her expression. Desperate people did terrible things. He'd learned that lesson more than once. Before either could respond, Ben's phone rang. He checked. The caller ID and his heart performed complicated gymnastics. Julie. He answered, stepping toward the shattered window for relative privacy. Julie. It's late. Is everything? I felt something. Her voice came through strained, confused. I was halfway across the galaxy, Ben, in the middle of a race, and I felt something pulling me toward Earth. Toward you. What the hell is happening? The golden thread connecting them pulsed, confirming what he already suspected. Julie had felt the cosmic awareness awakening, felt their compatibility resonating across light years. It's complicated, Ben said, which was becoming his standard response tonight. Where are you? Approaching Earth orbit. I'll land at the usual spot in maybe 40 minutes. Ben, seriously, what's going on? I haven't felt anything like this since. She trailed off, not finishing the sentence. Since they'd been together. That's what she wasn't saying. Meet me at the spot, Ben said. I'll explain everything, I promise. You better. Julie hung up. Ben turned back to find Gwen watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. The plumber containment team materialized in the apartment's center, Magister Patelid. I and two Kinesolaran officers who immediately began processing the Void Conclave soldiers. Patelidae, a massive tetraman whose 4 arms were currently occupied with scanning equipment and paperwork, glared at Ben. Tennyson, would you care to explain why my evening has been disrupted by dimensional incursions and assault reports? Short version, I accidentally upgraded the Omnitrix with celestial sapien consciousness. And now extra-dimensional refugees want to steal it to save their dying universe. Pateliday's 4 eyes blinked in perfect synchronization. The paperwork for this is going to be legendary. Sorry, Magister. Sorry doesn't unfile reports, Tennyson. Despite the gruff tone, Pateliday's expression held a hint of amusement. But I'll admit, you keep things interesting. Report to headquarters tomorrow, 0800 hours. Magister Tennyson wants a full briefing. Max, right. Ben's grandfather and the Earth's plumber commander would definitely have opinions about unauthorized celestial sapien consciousness mergers. The containment team finished securing the prisoners and vanished in a plumber transport beam, leaving Ben and Gwen alone in her destroyed apartment. I should help you clean, Ben started. Forget the apartment. Gwen cut him off, gesturing at the destruction. Restoration spell will fix everything in the morning. Ben, what was that transformation? I've never seen anything like it. The power readings were off the scale. Divine variant. The cosmic consciousness evolved all my aliens into enhanced versions. Ben flexed his hand, watching golden circuits pulse. I'm still figuring out the capabilities, but it's significant. Significant, Gwen repeated flatly. You just punched through dimensional barriers like tissue paper and operated outside temporal locks. That's not significant, Ben. That's universe altering. I know. He met her eyes. Which is why I need help. I can't do this alone. The Void Conclave wants the divine Omnitrix, and if they're desperate enough to attack Earth directly, they'll escalate. He hesitated, then pushed forward. I need you, your expertise, your magic, your ability to understand things I can't. They've always been better together than apart. Something shifted in Gwen's expression. What were you going to tell me before the attack? Ben's mouth went dry. The moment had passed, interrupted by violence. He could deflect now, claim it wasn't important, but the golden thread connecting them pulsed steady and true. That I've been in love with you for years, Ben said simply. And I've been too afraid of what that meant. Too worried about complicating our family dynamic or ruining our partnership, to admit it. The cosmic consciousness didn't create these feelings, Gwen. It just made me see him clearly for the first time without all my rationalizations and fear getting in the way. Gwen stood absolutely still, her expression cycled through shock, confusion, something that might have been joy. Then settling into careful control. Ben, you don't have to say anything, he continued quickly. I'm not asking for an answer right now. We've got extra-dimensional invaders and my ex-girl FR.IEND landing in 35 minutes and probably 17 other crises about to emerge. I needed to be honest. You deserve honesty. Your ex-girlfriend. Gwen's tone sharpened. Julie's coming here. She felt the cosmic surge from across the galaxy. The divine Omnitrix created connections. Ben stopped, realizing how this would sound. It's complicated. You keep saying that. Gwen crossed her arms. Uncomplicate it. The cosmic consciousness showed me compatibility, Ben explained. Potential relationships, probability branches where genuine connection could develop. 4 of them, Gwen. You, Julie, Kai, and Esther. He watched her process that. Watched emotions flicker across her face. Surprise, jealousy, hurt, then thoughtfulness as her brilliant analytical mind engaged with the problem. 4, she said finally. You can perceive 4 compatible romantic partners simultaneously. The consciousness doesn't force anything, Ben stressed. It just shows potential. What we do with that information is still our choice. I'm not saying we have to. I'm not expecting. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I'm really bad at this. Yes, Gwen agreed. You really are. But she was smiling slightly. That particular smile that meant her brain was working through complex problems. But you're honest, at least. That's new growth. Gwen, we'll talk about this, she interrupted. Actually talk, when we're not dealing with dimensional invaders and incoming ex-girlfriends. But Ben, for the record, I've been in love with you too. And I've been just as scared about what that meant. Ben's heart stopped, started again, racing. You have, since we were 16 and you saved me from the hybrid dimension by refusing to give up even when I told you to run. Gwen stepped closer. Maybe longer. I don't know. I spent so much energy convincing myself it was inappropriate that I never examined what I actually felt. They stood inches apart now. Ben could the flecks of gold in her green eyes, could feel the warmth of her mana signature mixing with his cosmic awareness. The golden thread between them sang. This is crazy, he whispered. Completely, she agreed. We're related. Step cousins. No shared DNA. Checked extensively because I'm not an idiot. Fair point. And there's 3 other women in your compatibility perception, Gwen added. That's going to be complicated. Very. Quote, but I'm willing to see where this goes. She smiled. After we deal with the immediate crises. Because that's our life, apparently. Cosmic revelations interrupted by people trying to kill us. Ben laughed, tension breaking. I've missed this. Us. Talking like this. Me too. His phone alarm chimed. 30 minutes until Julie's arrival. The usual spot was a 20-minute flight as Jetre. I have to go, Ben said reluctantly. I know. Gwen stepped back. Be honest with her too. Julie deserves that. What about Kai and Esther? One conversation at a time, Ben. Don't get ahead of yourself. Quote, sound advice. Ben moved toward the shattered window, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm terrified of screwing this up. Good, Gwen said. Terror means you care enough to try getting it right. Now go. And Ben, don't transform until you're clear of my wards. The magical resonance with your divine forms might destabilize them. Always the scholar. Ben grinned and jumped through the window, waiting until he'd fallen 3 stories before slapping the Omnitrix. Jetre's transformation took him mid-fall. The divine variant this time, he needed the speed. Transcendent Jetre manifested in a cascade of golden-green light, aerodynamic form now traced with cosmic circuits. He could feel the difference immediately. Faster, more aware, existing slightly outside normal space-time in ways that made distance relative. Ben rocketed toward the meeting spot, an abandoned quarry outside Bellwood where he and Julie had spent countless hours when they were dating. Him practicing transformations while she raced her ship through the obstacle course of broken machinery and cliff faces. The flight took 8 minutes instead of 20. Transcendent Jetre covered distance like it was a polite suggestion rather than a law. Julie's ship was already there, sleek and modified far beyond its original specs. She'd painted it electric blue with silver racing stripes, and the engine configuration suggested she'd installed amphibian thrust systems. Expensive. Illegal in most racing circuits. Very Julie. Ben transformed back to human form, landing softly on the quarry floor. Julie emerged from her ship, and his breath caught. She'd changed her appearance since he'd last seen her 6 months ago. Her black hair was shorter now, cut in a sharp bob with electric blue streaks that matched her ship. She wore racing leathers designed for functionality but managing to look stylish anyway, and she moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent years piloting at speeds that would kill most people. Ben, she said, neutral tone, carefully controlled. You look different. You too. I like the hair. Thanks. Julie approached slowly, cautiously, like she was navigating a tricky course. Want to explain why I felt something pull me across half the galaxy? Because that was deeply weird and kind of terrifying. Ben gestured to a flat boulder. It's a long story. I've got time. So he told her. Again, the artifact and merger, the divine Omnitrix, the expanded awareness. He showed her the golden circuits, watched her process everything with that sharp intelligence he'd always admired. Julie listened without interrupting, a skill she'd developed. The younger version of her would have jumped in with questions every 30 seconds. When he finished, she sat silent for a long moment. Then, so you can see, what? Soulmates. Destiny paths. Compatible possibilities, Ben corrected. Not destiny. Choice. The cosmic consciousness shows me probab. ILITY branches where genuine connection could develop between people. It doesn't force anything, and you see that with me. Julie's voice was carefully neutral. Yes, who else? Here was the moment. Honesty or deflection? Ben thought of Gwen's words. Julie deserves honesty. Gwen. Kai. Esther. Julie's eyebrows rose. 4 women. You've got 4 cosmic compatibility markers. Apparently I'm complicated. That's one word for it. Julie stood, pacing the quarry floor. Let me make sure I understand. You've developed cosmic awareness that shows you're compatible with 4 different women, one of whom is your cousin. Step-cousin. One of whom is your ex-girlfriend, one who had a crush on your werewolf form, and one who's literally an alien made of lava. When you put it that way it sounds ridiculous. Because it is ridiculous, Ben. Julie spun to face him. I don't even know what this is. 6 months ago we were broken up because you couldn't make time for a relationship between saving the universe. Now you're telling me we might be cosmically compatible along with 3 other women. I know it sounds insane. It doesn't sound insane. It is insane. Julie ran a hand through her short hair. But here's the thing. That pull I felt, the resonance or whatever that dragged me back to Earth. I felt it, Ben. It was real. And when I saw you just now, something in me recognized something. Ben's heart rate accelerated. What are you saying? I'm saying I felt it too. The connection, the compatibility. It was like suddenly understanding a language I didn't know I spoke. Julie met his eyes. I'm saying there might be something real here, underneath all the cosmic weirdness. But Ben, I need to know, are you expecting some kind of harem situation? Because that's not who I am. I don't share. I'm not expecting anything, Ben said honestly. I'm figuring this out as I go. The cosmic consciousness showed me possibilities. What I do with that information is still my choice. What you do with it is yours. I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now, Julie. I just wanted to be honest about what's happening. Julie studied him for a long moment. You have gotten better at communication. I've had good teachers, mostly learned from screwing up relationships by not communicating. That's growth, I guess. She smiled slightly. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I don't know what this compatibility thing means or how it works. But I felt something when the cosmic surge hit, and I felt something when I saw you tonight. I'm willing to explore what that might mean. But slowly, Ben. No rushing into things. No expectations. Agreed. And I'm going to need to talk to the other women in this situation. If there's even a possibility of, whatever this might become. We all need to be on the same page. No games. No competition. No drama. Ben hadn't even considered that angle. You want to coordinate with Gwen, Kai, and Esther. If this is real, if there's actually something here worth exploring, then everyone involved needs to communicate like adults. Julie's expression turned wry. Though I'll admit, having a conversation with your ex-girlfriend and step-cousin and the woman who wanted to date you as a werewolf is going to be surreal. Welcome to my life. Julie laughed, and the sound eased some of the tension coiled in Ben's chest. I've missed this. Us, talking. Even when we're discussing cosmic compatibility with multiple people. I've missed you, Ben admitted. I made mistakes when we were together. I wasn't ready for what you needed. I might be now. Might be isn't certainty. No, but it's honest. I'll take honest over empty promises. Julie checked her wrist-mounted communicator. I should get going. I've got a race in the Andromeda circuit tomorrow. And I need to recalibrate my ship after that emergency FTL jump here. You're leaving. Ben couldn't keep the disappointment from his voice. For now. But Ben, I'm coming back. This conversation isn't over. None of them are. Julie moved closer, rising on her toes to kiss his cheek. Quick, soft, promising. Don't get killed by extra-dimensional invaders before we figure this out. I'll do my best. She returned to her ship, engines humming to life. Ben watched her take off, the blue and silver craft executing a perfect barrel roll before rocketing toward orbit. 2 down. 2 conversations handled without disaster. Ben's phone buzzed. Message from Kai. Heard you had an interesting day. We need to talk. The universe's timing was terrible. He replied. Tomorrow. Plumber HQ, 0900. See you there. And Ben. I felt something earlier. Something centered on you. Explain it. Ben sighed. Tomorrow was going to be complicated. He transformed into Jetray, normal version, conserving energy, and flew toward home. The Bellwood apartment he maintained for nights when plumber duties ran late was modest, but it was his private space in a life that had very little privacy. Ben landed on the balcony and transformed back, exhausted. The clock read 1:37 a.m. He had to be at Plumber HQ in less than 7 hours for Max's briefing, then Kai's interrogation immediately after. Sleep was necessary. He stumbled into the apartment, barely managing to kick off his shoes before collapsing onto the couch. The golden circuits on his wrist pulsed gently in the darkness. 4 thread S stretched from his chest toward 4 different women, visible even with his eyes closed. What have I gotten myself into? Ben asked the empty apartment. No answer came, but somewhere across the city, he knew Gwen was probably asking herself the same question. Somewhere in space, Julie was piloting toward Andromeda with her mind full of cosmic possibilities. At Plumber Academy, Kai was researching and analyzing, trying to understand. And approaching Earth's solar system, Ester's diplomatic vessel carried someone who didn't know yet how her world was about to change. Ben fell asleep with those thoughts swirling through his mind. Cosmic awareness painting his dreams in golden threads and infinite possibilities. Tomorrow would bring answers. Or more questions. Probably questions. Definitely questions. But for the first time in years, Ben Tennyson felt like he wasn't facing them alone. Chapter 2. Convergence of Souls. Kai Green had been in the middle of demonstrating a Tetraman grappling technique. Four-armed opponents required completely different defensive strategies than bipedal combatants, when the vision struck her consciousness like a hammer made of starlight. The Plumber Academy Training Hall, with its reinforced floors and holographic combat projectors, faded into irrelevance. Suddenly Kai existed somewhere else, somewhere else, perceiving reality through senses she didn't possess. She saw Ben Tennyson reaching toward an artifact that sang in mathematical harmonies, saw cosmic consciousness flood through him in cascades of golden probability, felt the universe itself structure around a single human becoming something transcendent. Then she felt the pull. A thread connecting her soul to his, stretching across distance and possibility, humming with potential she couldn't name but recognized bone deep. The vision released her as suddenly as it had seized her. Kai found herself on her knees in the training hall, breathing hard, while 23 concerned cadets stared at their instructor who'd just collapsed mid-demonstration. Instructor Green, Cadet Simmons, a promising young Kinesolaran with excellent tactical instincts, approached cautiously. "Are you injured? Should we summon medical?" "I'm fine." Kai pushed herself to standing, willing her voice to steadiness despite the way her hands trembled. The thread was still there, visible when she closed her eyes. Golden and insistent, connecting her chest to someone kilometers away in Bellwood. Class dismissed. Review the Tetraman defense protocols we covered last week. Expect a practical examination next session. The cadets filed out, whispering among themselves. Kai waited until the training hall emptied before allowing herself to truly process what had happened. Visions weren't foreign to her. Kai's grandmother had walked the spirit paths, and that gift ran in their family bloodline. But this had been different. Not metaphorical or symbolic like traditional visions, but concrete. Real. Literal perception of events happening in real time across significant distance. And the thread connecting her to Ben Tennyson refused to dissipate. Kai had known Ben for years. Their first meeting had been embarrassing in retrospect. She'd been a child with romantic notions about dating a werewolf, seeing Ben's Blitzwolfer transformation as something exotic rather than recognizing the person behind the alien form. They'd crossed paths occasionally since, missions where Plumber Academy resources intersected with Ben's universe-saving activities, and Kai had developed genuine respect for who he'd become. Respect. That's what she'd told herself. Only respect for a fellow warrior and protector. The golden thread pulsed, and Kai was forced to confront the reality that she'd been lying to herself about the nature of her feelings for years. "Damn it, Ben," she muttered to the empty training hall. "What did you do?" Her communicator chimed. Magister Pateliday's gruff voice emerged from the device. "Instructor Green. Report to Intelligence Division. We've detected anomalous energy signatures in the Academy's dimensional stabilization network. Your expertise in xenoanthropology may prove relevant." Anomalous energy signatures. Dimensional instabilities. The same day Ben had apparently merged with cosmic consciousness and created soul thread connections across the planet. Coincidences myths people told themselves to avoid seeing patterns. Acknowledged. Magister. En route. Kai grabbed her jacket. Traditional leather decorated with both Navajo beadwork and plumber insignia, and he added for Intelligence Division at a pace just short of running. The Academy sprawled across what had once been a remote desert military installation, transformed over decades into humanity's primary reigning facility for intergalactic peacekeeping. The architecture blended Earth construction with alien technology, Adobe-style buildings housing quantum computers, traditional wooden beams supporting force field generators. Courtyards featuring plants from 70 different worlds arranged according to compatible atmospheric requirements. Kai had taught here for 3 years, the youngest instructor in Academy history. She'd earned that position through demonstrated expertise in over 200 alien cultures, combat proficiency in 17 different martial traditions, and diplomatic skills that had resolved conflicts other plumbers couldn't navigate. She was good at her job. Took pride in preparing the next generation of plumbers to handle the complexity of Earth's integration into galactic civilization. But walking toward Intelligence Division while a golden thread hummed in her chest, Kai felt like a cadet again, uncertain and unprepared for what came next. The Intelligence Division occupied the Academy's most secure building, protected by galvanic mechamorph technology that could reconfigure defenses in response to threats. Kai cleared 3 security checkpoints before reaching the analysis chamber where Magister Patelade waited alongside 2 technicians and Ben. His name escaped before professional composure could catch it. Ben Tennyson stood near the primary analysis console, looking simultaneously exhausted and more vital than Kai had ever seen him. The Omnitrix on his wrist had changed, evolved into something that hurt to look at directly, golden circuits flowing across white and green housing in patterns that rewrote themselves constantly. Those same circuits traced delicate spirals up his forearm, occasionally pulsing with inner light. When Ben's gaze met hers, Kai felt the thread connecting them flare brilliant and blazing. He felt it too. She could see recognition in his expression, followed by something complicated, hope mixed with apprehension, attraction tempered by responsibility. Kai. Ben's voice was different, deeper, resonant with harmonics that made reality shiver slightly. I was going to call you later. Didn't expect to see you this soon. Circumstances appear to have accelerated your timeline, Tennyson. Magister Patelade's 4 eyes swiveled between them, analysis evident in his expression. The Tetraman was many things, but oblivious wasn't among them. I've briefed Ben regarding the dimensional anomalies. Your perspective would prove valuable. Kai forced herself into professional mode, approaching the analysis console. The holographic display showed the Academy's dimensional stabilization network, technology that prevented unwanted portals and kept the facility anchored properly in space-time. Normally it register D is clean green lines forming a perfect geometric lattice. Currently, 7 points in the network glowed angry crimson, and the lattice structure had developed concerning distortions. Sabotage, Kai said immediately. Those anchor points have been deliberately compromised. The pattern suggests someone familiar with plumber technology but approaching it from an external framework. See how the dam age clusters around primary nodes rather than distributing across the network. They're trying to create a controlled collapse that would look like system failure rather than attack. One of the technicians, a Galvan named Retaliator who'd been with Intelligence for decades, made an approving clicking sound. Precise assessment, Instructor Green. We reached similar conclusions. The question becomes, who possesses both Academy access and alternative dimensional technology? Void Conclave. Ben's voice carried certainty. They attacked last night, went after the Divine Omnitrix directly, tried to ambush me at Gwen's apartment. When that failed, they'd need a new approach. Infiltrating the Academy gives them resources and intelligence. Kai processed that information alongside her earlier vision. Divine Omnitrix. That's what you merged with. Celestial Sapien consciousness integrated with Azimuth's device. Short version, yeah. Ben flexed his hand, circuits pulsing. The cosmic awareness came with expansions, new capabilities, enhanced transformations, and perception of connections between compatible souls. The way he said that last part, eyes meeting hers with deliberate significance, made Kai's breath catch. You can see them, she said softly. The threads. I felt one connect us during your transformation. Yes. Magister Patelade cleared his throat, a sound like boulders grinding together. While I find interpersonal dynamics fascinating, perhaps we could address the immediate security crisis before exploring metaphysical connections. Heat rushed to Kai's face. Of course, Magister. Apologies. The infiltration is our priority, Ben agreed, though his gaze lingered on Kai another moment before turning to the display. If Void Conclave has people inside the Academy, we need to identify them without alerting their network. Standard security sweeps won't work. They're clearly sophisticated enough to bypass normal protocols. I could perform a taumaturgical resonance scan. Everyone turned toward the door where Gwen Tennyson had just entered, followed closely by a shorter woman with dark hair and racing leathers who Kai recognized from files and mission reports. Julie Yamamoto, Ben's ex-girlfriend, also someone connected by a golden thread, according to Ben's cosmic awareness. This was rapidly becoming complicated. Gwen continued without acknowledging sudden tension. Void conclave energy signatures operate on different dimensional frequencies than our universe's baseline. A properly calibrated magical scan should identify anyone carrying their technology or contaminated by their reality's physics. The Academy's anti-magic protocols would prevent traditional spellcasting, Retaliator noted. Safety measure against hostile mystical intrusion. Good thing I'm not traditional. Gwen's smile carried considerable edge. Purple-pink energy flickered around her hands, anodyne heritage making magic as natural as breathing. The protocols were designed to stop external casting. I'm Magister Tennyson's granddaughter. My magical signature is literally coded into the Academy's security as friendly. Magister Pateliday's expression suggested he was reconsidering those security parameters, but he nodded. Proceed. Scan this facility first, then expand to the broader Academy if you detect infiltration. Gwen began weaving complex patterns in the air, energy coalescing into geometric forms that definitely weren't part of any Earth magical tradition. Kai recognized Galvan mathematical elegance mixed with what looked like legerdemain invocation structures. Hybrid magic, incorporating multiple cultural frameworks. Impressive. Kai had studied magical traditions from a scholarly perspective but lacked the raw power for practical application. Watching Gwen work was like observing a master artist. Julie moved to stand beside Ben, her posture carefully casual. So this is where you've been. I thought you might call after last night. It's been a complicated morning. Ben said quietly. Max wanted a full briefing at 0800, and then Pateliday pulled me into this investigation before I could. I'm not mad, Ben. Just observing. Julie's dark eyes flicked toward Kai, assessing. You must be Kai Green. I've read your tactical reports. Impressive work on the Inkerseen border dispute last year. Professional recognition, delivered with perfect politeness. Also subtle establishment of credentials. Julie had access to classified plumber reports despite being a civilian. That suggested either security clearance or excellent hacking skills. Possibly both. Thank you, Kai replied with equal politeness. And you're Julie Yamamoto. Your ship racing accomplishments are well known even outside athletic circles. The Andromeda Circuit Victo Rai last season was particularly masterful. Masterful is generous. I got lucky with the final turn. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. You were prepared. They smiled at each other, polite, cautious. Both aware they were navigating something unprecedented. Gwen's spell pulsed brilliant purple, expanding outward in a sphere that passed through walls and bodies like light through glass. Kai felt it wash over her. A sensation like being read on fundamental levels, magic analyzing the dimensional frequencies comprising her physical form. The spell expanded beyond the intelligence division building, covering the entire facility in seconds. Then Gwen's expression hardened. Found them. 4 individuals carrying void conclave energy signatures. 3 in administration, 1 in the archives. Her eyes glowed solid purple as she focused on the magical feedback. They're not possessing Academy personnel. These are full replacements. Void conclave infiltrators using technology to mimic our people's biometric signatures. Who? Pateliday demanded. Deputy Administrator Callis, Archive Master Chen, and 2 administrative assistants in personnel management. Gwen's voice was tight. Callis has access to deployment schedules. Chen controls information flow. Personnel management handles security clearances. They've compromised our command structure, Kai said, pieces falling into place. With those positions they could manipulate missions, suppress intelligence reports, and vet their own people into additional positions. Ben was already moving toward the door. We need to secure them before they realize we've identified the infiltration. Agreed, but carefully. Pateliday's tactical mind was clearly working. If we alert the network, others may escape or activate contingencies. This requires surgical precision. I can help with that. Everyone turned toward Julie, who shrugged. What? I've done infiltration work. Some racing circuits are basically criminal enterprises with better merchandising. You learn to move quietly and extract targets without causing scenes. Kai reassessed her evaluation of Julie Yamamoto upward another few notches. 4-team approach, Ben proposed. Each team takes one target simultaneously. Magister Patelade coordinates timing. We strike together, secure them before they can communicate warnings. I'll take Archive Master Chen, Gwen volunteered. The archives have magical protections I can neutralize. Deputy Administrator Callus for me, Patelade said. My authority gives me access to administration without raising suspicion. Personnel management. First Assistant, Julie offered. I can pose as a civilian contractor requiring clearance processing. Gets me inside their office legitimately. Which left Kai and Ben for the second personnel assistant. She met his eyes, seeing her own determination reflected there. We're together, then, Kai said, and tried to ignore how the golden thread between them hummed approval at those words. They planned for 17 minutes. Quick tactical briefing establishing approach vectors, timing synchronization, contingency protocols if anything went wrong. The precision came from years of experience. Everyone in the room had run operations like this dozens of times. Except now Kai was acutely aware of Ben's presence in ways she'd never experienced before. The Golden Thread NNECTING them created a strange awareness. She could almost sense his emotional state, feel his determination and underlying nervousness about working alongside her given everything left unsaid between them. Focus. Mission first. Cosmic connections later. Their target, Assistant Administrator Reina Ortiz, maintained an office in Personnel Management's secondary building. According to records, the Il Ortiz had transferred to the academy 3 months ago from a plumber station on Petropia. Quiet, efficient, no behavioral flags that would draw attention. Perfect cover for infiltration. Kai and B.N. approached the building separately, her through the main entrance as an instructor with legitimate business, him circling to the rear exit in case Ortiz attempted to flee. They maintained communication through subvocal transmitters. In position at rear access, Ben's voice murmured through the receiver in Kai's ear. No unusual activity visible. You're clear to approach. Kai entered personnel management like she belonged there. Confidence was 90% of successful infiltration. The front office held the usual controlled chaos. Administrators processing paperwork, cadets requesting transfer approvals. Various species creating a low ambient noise of conversation and clicking and harmonized whistles that served as language. Ortiz's office occupied a small space in the back corner. Glass walls made it visible from the main floor, transparency as security measure. Kai could see the woman inside, human appearance, dark hair pulled into a professional bun, working at her computer terminal with apparent focus. Too much focus. Real administrators got interrupted constantly. Ortiz hadn't looked up once since Kai entered. Target acquired, Kai sub-vocalized. Approaching now. She knocked on the glass door. Ortiz looked up, expression shifting through micro-expressions too quickly. Surprise, then calculation, then settling into professional courtesy. Not human emotional patterns. Close. But Void Conclave infiltrators were working from observation, not instinct. Instructor Green. Ortiz's voice was perfectly pleasant. How can I help you? I need to discuss a cadet's security clearance. Confidential matter. Kai stepped inside, letting the door close behind her. Do you have a moment? Of course. Ortiz gestured to the chair across from her desk. Kai didn't sit. Instead she moved to the window, positioning herself between Ortiz and the door. Simultaneously, she triggered the signal device in her pocket. Ben would be moving now. Actually, Kai said conversationally, I'm here about a different matter. How long have you been replacing the real Reina Ortiz? Ortiz's expression didn't change, but Kai saw the woman's hand move towards something under her desk. She reacted instantly, grabbed Ortiz's wrist, twisted, used the woman's momentum to pull her across the desk and into an arm lock. Ben, now. The rear door burst open. Ben entered already transformed. Not a divine variant, just standard XLR8. Moving at speeds that turned him into a blue and black blur. He secured Ortiz's other arm before she could reach whatever weapon or escape device she'd been attempting to activate. Clear, Ben said, transforming back to human. Between them they had Ortiz completely immobilized. The woman stopped struggling, her expression shifting into something cold and alien despite the human features. You're too late. The network is already in position. The divine Omnitrix will be ours. What network? Kai demanded. How many infiltrators are in the academy? Enough. Ortiz smiled. We are desperate, not stupid. Did you truly believe we'd limit ourselves to 4 operatives? Ben and Kai exchanged glances. 4 confirmed infiltrators, but how many total? Ben's communicator chimed. Gwen's voice emerged, tight with tension. We've got our targets secured, but you need to see what we found. Archives, immediately. This is bigger than we thought. The archives occupy a converted aircraft hangar in the Academy's oldest section, expanded through dimensional folding to contain significantly more space than external dimensions suggested. Magical and technological protections layered the facility. Information security was paramount for an organization operating across dozens of worlds. Kai and Ben arrived with Ortiz in restraints to find Gwen, Julie, and Magister Patelade standing near Archive Master Chen's primary terminal. The real Chen had been Centaurian, rocky silicon-based biology. The infiltrator they'd captured looked similar, but Gwen's magic had stripped away the disguise to reveal something else entirely. The Void Conclave infiltrator's true form was humanoid but clearly not from their universe. Skin like living shadow, eyes that showed star fields instead of pupils. Proportions slightly wrong in ways that made Kai's depth perception struggle. They're not using technology to mimic our people, Gwen explained, gesturing to Chen. They're quantum locked, existing in superposition between their form and the person they're replacing, collapsing into one or the other based on observation. Schrodinger's infiltrator, Julie said. Horrifying. And effective. Patelade's expression was grim. Chen had access to our complete intelligence network. Mission records, personnel files, strategic assessments, everything. They've been feeding information to the Void Conclave for months, Gwen continued. Building profiles on our strongest assets, identifying vulnerabilities in our defensive networks, waiting for the optimal strike moment. The divine Omnitrix activation, Kai realized. That was their trigger. They knew Ben would return to the Academy, knew we'd investigate the dimensional anomalies. They wanted us here. Ben had gone very still. Cosmic awareness clearly working through implications. It's a trap. The infiltration, the sabotage. They want me to engage here where they control the environment. Then we evacuate, Patelade said immediately. Clear the Academy, relocate to secure. No time. Ben pointed at Chen's terminal where data was scrolling rapidly. They're already activating something. Look at the dimensional anchor points. They're not trying to destabilize them anymore. They're reconfiguring them into a summoning array. Kai studied the data, her xenoanthropology expertise recognizing patterns. That's a Zephanoran configuration, religious summoning architecture from the outer spiral. It's designed to create a stable bridgehead for massive dimensional transit. They're bringing an army, Julie said flatly. The building shook. Not earthquake. Dimensional breach. Reality cracked audibly like ice under pressure, and Kai saw spatial distortion spreading from the 7 compromised anchor points throughout the Academy. All personnel, emergency alert. Patelade's voice boomed through the facility-wide communication system. Dimensional incursion in progress. Initiate defense protocol Omega-7. The archives erupted in chaos as automated defense systems activated. Force fields materialized. Weapons platforms emerged from hidden compartments, evacuation routes illuminated throughout the facility. Through it all, Kai kept her focus on the terminal. If we can disrupt even one anchor point, the summoning array collapses. The configuration requires perfect 7-fold symmetry. Where's the closest anchor? Ben asked. Training Hall Delta, 300 meters northeast. Then that's where we go. Ben turned to the others. Gwen, can you work on a counter-spell to destabilize the array? I'll need time and concentration. Someone has to keep the Void Conclave forces off me while I work. Julie, help evacuate non-combatants. Your ship piloting skills translate to tactical coordination. You can move people efficiently. Julie nodded, already moving toward the evacuation coordinator station. Magister Patelade, organize the defensive response. You know Academy personnel and capabilities better than anyone. Agreed. Patelade was already barking orders into his communicator. Ben looked at Kai. You're with me. We disrupt that anchor point before this gets worse. The golden thread between them pulsed. And Kai felt something else through their connection. Ben's absolute confidence in her abilities, his trust that she could handle whatever came next. She'd spent ours earning respect through demonstrated competence. But this was different. This was being seen, truly seen, by someone who understood her on levels she hadn't known existed. Let's go save the academy, Kai said. They ran. Training Hall Delta was chaos incarnate. The dimensional anchor point, a crystalline pillar of galvanic technology normally invisible within the building's infrastructure, had manifested in the center of the combat floor, pulsing with sickly purple energy. Around it, reality itself was breaking down. Void Conclave soldiers poured through tears in space-time, their shadow carrying weapons that hurt to perceive directly. Ben didn't hesitate. He slapped the Omnitrix mid-run, green light cascading across his body as transformation took him. But instead of a familiar alien form, what emerged was something new. Divine Wrath. The tiger-like alien had always been massive and powerful, but this version transcended physical might. White fur traced with golden circuits, sclees that seemed to contain compressed starlight, eyes glowing with cosmic awareness. When Divine Wrath roared, reality itself flinched. Let me tell you something, Void Conclave invaders. The signature speech pattern remained, but resonant with harmonics that made dimensional barriers vibrate. Wrath does not appreciate people messing with his friend's workplace. Wrath thinks you should leave before this gets embarrassing for you. 3 soldiers rushed him. Divine Wrath moved with speed that shouldn't be possible for something his size, cosmic awareness showing him probability paths of their attacks before they manifested. He dodged the first soldier's entropy blade, caught the second soldier mid-lunge, and threw them into the third with precision that sent all 3 sprawling. Embarrassing. Kai engaged on Wrath's flank, her own combat training coming into play. She'd studied 17 alien martial traditions, and now she blended them fluidly: Tetraman grappling, Kinesolaran speed striking, Kraho environmental use. A Void Conclave soldier attempted to flank her. She redirected their momentum using principles learned from a blind Pripyatosian bee master, sending them crashing into the crystalline anchor point. The anchor pulsed, energy fluctuating, vulnerable to physical impact. Ben, Kai shouted over the chaos. The anchor, it's unstable. Physical damage disrupts it. Wrath heard that. Divine Wrath charged the anchor point, cosmic awareness calculating exact strike points. His fist connected with the crystal, and cracks spider-webbed across its surface. The Void Conclave forces reacted immediately, concentrating their defense around the anchor. More soldiers poured through the dimensional tiers, and these carried heavier weapons, entropy cannons that aged matter into dust. Probability disruptors that made movement uncertain. Kai found herself back-to-back with Divine Wrath as enemies surrounded them. This is significantly more opponents than I'd prefer. Wrath agrees. But Wrath also thinks we're doing great. High five. We're in the middle of combat. Never too busy for proper celebration of teamwork. Despite everything, the danger, the chaos, the universe-threatening crisis, Kai laughed. Ben's humor in the face of catastrophe was somehow both infuriating and endearing. She also noticed something else. Fighting alongside Divine Wrath, she could almost predict his movements. The golden thread connecting them created combat synergy, allowing coordination beyond normal teamwork. When Wrath moved left to engage 3 soldiers, Kai instinctively moved right to cover his flank. When she ducked an entropy beam, Wrath was already countering the shooter. They moved like they'd been fighting together for years instead of minutes. Wrath notices we're really good at this. Divine Wrath clearly felt it too. Focus on the anchor. Kai redirected. We need. The dimensional tiers above them expanded violently. Something massive pushed through. A Void Conclave war construct, biomechanical and towering. Covered in the same shadow substance as the soldiers but concentrated into devastating form. Well, Kai said with forced calm, that's unfortunate. Wrath thinks that's an understatement. Ben slapped the Omnitrix again, transformation shifting even while maintaining divine enhancement. Divine Homungosaur manifested in a cascade of golden light. Scaled, massive, radiating cosmic power. This version stood 20 feet tall instead of the normal 12, golden circuits tracing patterns across brown and blue scales. The war construct lunged. Divine Homungosaur met it head-on. The impact shook the entire building. Homungosaur's cosmic enhanced strength matched the construct's mass, and they grappled in the training hall's center while Void Conclave's soldiers attempted to exploit the distraction. Kai wouldn't let them. She grabbed a discarded plumber weapon, level 4 plasma rifle, standard issue but effective, and laid down suppressing fire. Her accuracy was excellent. Years of training made marksmanship second nature. But there were too many. For every soldier she incapacitated, 2 more poured through the dimensional tiers. Then the cavalry arrived. Gwen materialized through a portal of her own creation, eyes glowing solid purple with mystical power. Mana constructs erupted from her hands, shields, projectiles, binding spells, all targeting Void Conclave forces with precision. Julie emerged right behind her, not through magic but through what looked like a personal teleporter modified to dangerous specifications. She carried a ship grad E-pulse cannon that definitely wasn't Academy standard issue, firing suppression bursts that forced the Void Conclave into defensive positions. Thought you could use support. Julie shouted over the chaos. Evacuations complete, Gwen added, weaving a spell that created a containment barrier around the dimensional tiers. It wouldn't hold long, but it slowed reinforcement flow. Now let's end this. 4 of them against dozens of enemies. Terrible odds. Kai grinned fiercely. She'd faced worse. Divine Homungosaur roared, cosmic power surging. He grabbed the war construct and, with effort visible, even through his massive form, threw it directly at the crystalline anchor point. The construct crashed into the crystal. The anchor point shattered. Dimensional backlash exploded outward. The Simmet, Rai-dependent summoning array collapsed instantly. Throughout the Academy, the other 6 anchor points destabilized, unable to maintain the configuration without all 7 components. The dimensional tiers snapped shut. Void Conclave soldiers trapped on this side of the breach scrambled for escape, but plumber forces were already moving in to secure them. Victory. Ben transformed back to human, breathing hard. The golden circuits on his wrist pulsed rapidly, clearly taxed by maintaining divine transformations under combat stress. Kai moved to his side instinctively. Are you okay? Yeah, just. The divine forms take a lot more energy than I expected. He smiled tiredly. We did good. We did, Gwen agreed, approaching with Julie. The 4 of them stood together in the destroyed training hall, surrounded by unconscious enemies and shattered technology. Kai became acutely aware of the dynamic in this moment. 4 people connected by golden threads, brought together by cosmic awareness and circumstance. Having just fought alongside each other with seamless coordination. Julie broke the silence. So, this is definitely a conversation we need to have. Agreed, Gwen said quietly. Ben looked at Kai, question in his eyes. She understood what he was asking. Was she ready for this discussion? Kai had spent her life studying different cultures, learning to understand and navigate complexity others found overwhelming. She'd prepared herself for diplomatic negotiations between species with fundamentally different values, for bridging gaps that seemed impossible to cross. This situation was complex, unprecedented. 4 women potentially connected to 1 man through cosmic compatibility. But Kai had never backed away from complexity before. Agreed, she said firmly. Let's talk. They relocated to a secured conference room while plumber forces processed the aftermath. Magister Patelade had taken command of the security response, giving the 4 of them space to deal with he'd tactfully called cosmic awareness complications. The room was utilitarian. Conference table, chairs, holoprojector, nothing decorative. Neutral space for difficult conversations. Kai sat across from Gwen and Julie, with Ben at the table's head looking deeply uncomfortable. The golden threads connecting all of them were visible to Kai now. She didn't know if that was her own spiritual sensitivity responding to Ben's cosmic awareness or something else, but she could see the connections clearly. 4 threads, 4 women, all linked to Ben Tennyson. So, Julie started, characteristically direct. Let's establish parameters. Ben's cosmic awareness shows compatibility between him and each of us. Individual connections, but all existing simultaneously. The compatibility is real, Gwen added. I've analyzed the taumaturgical resonance patterns. Whatever the divine Omnitrix showed Ben isn't manipulation or illusion. It's genuine probability analysis based on emotional, intellectual, and spiritual compatibility. But probability isn't certainty, Kai noted. Compatibility doesn't mandate relationship, it indicates potential. Exactly. Ben found his voice, looking at each of them in turn. The cosmic awareness showed me possibilities, not requirements. What we do with that information is still our choice. I'm not expecting anything from any of you. I just wanted to be honest about what I'm perceiving. Silence settled as each woman processed that. Julie spoke first. I felt the connection when Ben's transformation happened. Across the galaxy, in the middle of a race, I felt something pull me toward him. That's real. And when we talked last night, I recognized something I'd been denying since we broke up, that I still have feelings, and they might be deeper than I'd admitted. I've been in love with him for years, Gwen said quietly. Convinced myself it was inappropriate, that societal expectations mattered more than genuine connection. The cosmic awareness didn't create my feelings. It just forced me to stop lying to myself. Both women looked at Kai expectantly. She took a breath, gathering her thoughts. Honesty deserved honesty. When I first met Ben, as a child with shallow fantasies about dating someone exotic, Kai admitted. I'm not proud of that. Over the years, we've worked together occasionally, and I developed respect for who he'd become. Told myself it was only respect. She paused. The vision during his transformation showed me the truth. I've been attracted to him for a long time. To his strength, yes, but more to his compassion. South ability to bridge different worlds and find common ground. His refusal to give up even when situations seem impossible. She met Ben's eyes. You embody the same bridging of cultures I've dedicated my life to understanding. That resonates with me deeply. Ben looked overwhelmed, in a way that was somehow endearing rather than weak. I don't know what to say. I care about all of you. Deeply. But, I don't know how to navigate this situation. I can barely handle one relationship successfully. Then maybe don't approach it as one person handling multiple relationships, Julie suggested. What if we all work together to figure out what this could be? Gwen leaned forward. There are cultures across the galaxy where polyamorous relationships are standard practice. The Kraho, for example, form family units based on compatible heat signatures. Typically 3 to 7 individuals in complex partnership networks. I've studied those traditions, Kai added. They work because they're built on clear communication, defined boundaries, and genuine care for all partners' well-being. Not one person collecting others, but a group choosing each other. Is that what we're discussing? Ben asked carefully. A polyamorous relationship, all of us together. I don't know, Julie admitted. But I'm willing to explore the possibility. With ground rules and honest communication. I won't be part of something where I'm just one of a collection. If we do this, we're all equals, including Ben. Agreed, Gwen said. No hierarchy. No primary and secondary partners. We're either building something real together or we're not doing it at all. Kai considered carefully. Her grandmother had taught her that love wasn't a finite resource, that the heart could hold infinite affection if fear didn't constrict it. Different cultures approached relationships differently, and none held inherent moral superiority. I'm willing to try, Kai said, cautiously, with the understanding that this might not work, and if it doesn't, we need to be mature enough to acknowledge that and maintain our friendships and professional relationships. Fair terms. Julie looked at Gwen. Can you work with me? I know we have history through Ben. I can work with anyone who treats people with respect, Gwen replied. We're both intelligent, capable women. We can navigate this like adults. Then we're agreed. Ben's voice held cautious hope. We try this together, honestly, and if it doesn't work, we're mature about it. 3 women looked at each other, then at Ben, then nodded in synchronization. Agreed, they said together. The golden threads pulsed brilliant and warm. Kai felt something shift in her chest. Not magic, not supernatural compulsion, just the recognition that she'd made a choice that felt right despite its unconventional nature. So what happens now? Ben asked. Now we take this slowly, Julie said. Get to know each other as potential partners, not just colleagues or ex-girlfriends or family members. Build something real instead of rushing in based on cosmic compatibility alone. And we need to meet Ester, Gwen noted. She's the 4th connection. Can't build a group dynamic without all members present. Kai had nearly forgotten. Ester, the Kraho ambassador. When does she arrive on Earth? Ben checked his communicator. According to the diplomatic schedule, tomorrow. Her delegation is scheduled for peace treaty negotiations with the Plumber Organization. Perfect timing, Julie said dryly. Nothing like adding another variable to an already complex situation. Ester comes from a culture where polyamorous relationships are normal, Gwen reminded them. She might actually be the least complicated person to integrate into this dynamic. Or the most complicated, Becca. We'll all be approaching this from different cultural frameworks, Kai countered. But that's tomorrow's challenge. Today's challenge is explaining this to Max, Ben said, looking slightly ill. My grandfather is going to have opinions. Let him, Julie said firmly. We're adults making informed choices. He can have opinions, but this is our decision. The conference room door opened. Magister Patelade entered, his forearms full of data pads and his expression exhausted. The situation is contained, he reported. 17 Void Conclave infiltrators captured, dimensional breaches sealed, and Academy security undergoing complete overhaul. Casualties were minimal, thanks to your rapid response. He paused, looking at the 4 of them gathered around the table. I assume you've addressed the personal complications. We're working on it, Ben said. Good, because I need you all functional for tomorrow's diplomatic reception. The Kraho delegation arrives at 1400 hours, and given recent security breaches, we'll need our best people on protection detail. Kai, Gwen, and Julie exchanged glances. Of course, Magister, Kai said, keeping her voice professionally neutral. We'll be prepared. After Patelade left, Ben dropped his head to the table with a solid thunk. I'm dating 3 women and about to meet the 4th at a diplomatic function where we have to maintain professional composure, he said. Muffled by the table's surface. My life has become a cosmic joke. Could be worse, Julie offered cheerfully. At least we're all people you actually like and respect. And who like and respect each other. Gwen added. That's not nothing, Ben. Kai found herself smiling. Besides, if you can handle being the universe's hero since age 10, you can handle a complicated relationship situation. Ben lifted his head, and despite the exhaustion evident in his face, he smiled. When you put it that way. Come on. Julie stood, stretching. I need food. Fighting ext. Radimensional invaders works up an appetite. Let's get dinner and continue this conversation somewhere less institutional. There's a good fusion restaurant near campus, Kai suggested. Earth and alien cuisine. Seems appropriately metaphorical for our situation. I love metaphors involving food, Gwen said. Let's go. They left the academy together. 4 people connected by cosmic threads and conscious choice. Walking towards something unprecedented and possibly wonderful. Kai felt the thread connecting her to Ben pulse gently. Alongside it, she was beginning to perceive finer threads linking her to Gwen and Julie as well. Not romantic necessarily, but connection nonetheless. Potential friendship, mutual respect, shared experience. Tomorrow would bring Ester and new complications. The Void Conclave threat remained unresolved. Ben's cosmic awareness would likely cause additional unforeseen problems. But tonight, they would share a meal and conversation. They would begin building something real from cosmic possibility. Kai had studied hundreds of alien cultures, learned to navigate complexity that most humans couldn't comprehend. This situation was complex, yes. Unprecedented, certainly. But as her grandmother had taught her, the most worthwhile paths were rarely the simple ones. She was ready to walk this one, wherever it led. Blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.